Leela Delia said, "Self-care is how you take your power back." I think I need to repeat that. Self-care is how you take your power back. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marissa, and I'm the Risk and Insurance Head of Department at Millpark Education. And it is a great honor to host this vitally important session this morning to wrap up Women's Month. As we pay tribute to the almost 20,000 women who marched to the Union Building on 9 August 1956 in protest against the extension of past laws to women, a system meant to control women even further and reduce women to passive beings at the mercy of men. This year, the South African theme for Women's Month is Building Back Better for Women's Improved Resilience, aligning with the concept of generalization equality that is a global campaign and links South Africa to global efforts to achieve gender equality by 2030. Guys, in all honesty, I'm not 100% sure why they asked me to host this webinar, as most days I feel like I'm barely hanging on, and I am definitely not the pinnacle of wellness. In general, I feel like Sarah Jessica Parker in the movie I Don't Know How She Does It, with lists and reminders flying in my head and all over the place. I do, however, try my best to work on it every day and prioritize myself, because as cliche as it might be, it is true that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Now, I want to introduce you to our incredible panel that is here today. Kim is a Chief Investment Officer at Spear and has over 16 years of professional experience in the listed and non-listed real estate sector. Her primary role is the critical assessments of acquisitions and disposal opportunities which directly impact on shareholder earnings and value. So welcome and thank you so much for being here, Kim. Ayanda, and who I am personally very, very proud of as an alumni of Millpark, is the epiphany of I don't know how she does it, as she is the managing director of a company, a learning and development specialist, and a content producer of the Insurance Guru. And if you are not following her on YouTube, you are completely missing out. And last but not least, Brunhilde, who is our Financial Services Deputy Head of School, a certified financial planner, an admitted attorney with a master's degree in law of business entities and a member of the Fiduciary Institute of South Africa. And one of my best friends, and probably one of the few reasons for the little bit of wellness that I do have. So guys, without further ado, let's find out from these incredible women who we are celebrating today, how do they deal? So I want to start off with Kim, and I want to ask you, Kim, how do you define the relationship between work and wellness for women?
Thank you, Marissa, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel today. This is a topic that's very close to my heart. I am a huge advocate for women working. I believe that if women want to be empowered, we need to be financially independent as well as fulfilled in our career. But as a mother and as a partner, it's also important that it's not at the detriment of that part of your life. So it's really about creating that balance between self-fulfillment and being able to look after yourself, having choices, which the financial freedom gives you, to also be able to house, clothe, and look after your children and yourself.
Yeah, that is definitely so very true, especially for our children and giving them the best. And not only for our sons, but for our daughters, to set them up for success and going forward.
Absolutely.
Ayanda, is there any advice that you would give women looking to pivot their careers without compromising their wellness, or growing in their careers and going upwards? You're on mute.
How am I on mute? I'm so sorry.
There we go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I was saying thank you for the opportunity to speak as well today. So I think that the one biggest thing is it's very important for women to love what you do. So as much as if you want to grow in your career, expand as well, you need to love what you're doing. And I think a lot of times we see our male counterparts or we see what other people have done, and we think that should be the trajectory or the direction I take, without first taking yourself and what your personal goals are into consideration. So I think in terms of pivoting your career, it's important that you balance your what you see for yourself, what you know about yourself, to be able to self-actualize. Because I find a lot of times women get given opportunities that may not be in line with what they enjoy. So, for instance, you find someone with a very um, meek personality being given an opportunity to be a sales manager, and it's not for everyone. So just because you're also given an opportunity, it doesn't mean you have to take it. You first have to consider what your strengths are and what you enjoy, and actually decide and envision what it is that you want for your future. So I think a lot of the times women, when we start in our careers, we sort of just go with, well, that's the corner office and that's what I want to do, without actually investigating the opportunities that lie around us. I mean, for the fact that I can go from learning and development into content producing is still in line with sort of what I like doing. And so I can then be able to grow that more. I can't find the right word, but I can be more passionate about it, as opposed to somebody putting me in an office to say I must now make sure a team does sales or whatever. So I think it's important to know who you are first before looking to actually grow your career.
Wow. Yeah. I must say that is not something I prepared for, but I think that is so very important to know yourself first. And I mean, there's so many, different things out there. I think James Patterson has things to know yourself. Gallup has stuff to know yourself. And at Mill Park, we did those things a while ago, and it's completely, I understand myself now. I understand why I am sometimes picky. Let's call a spade, a little bit crazy. So, yeah, I think that's one of the first points, is know yourself, know what you
True.
want and know what you like, and build from that passion going forward.
Marissa,
yes.
oh, sorry.
No, I wanted to say, if I can add to that, not only knowing yourself, but also having realistic expectations from yourself. I think that's also very important in the whole knowing yourself. Is it realistic to expect, like, from yourself to be able to do something specific? So I think that's also just important.
And I just wanted to add that change is just change. So if you change your mind and you want to move in a different direction, whether that's at work or personally, you shouldn't be afraid to move and grow and move into areas where you feel most at harmony.
Definitely.
True.
Then I want to throw a question to Brunhilde. What do you think is some of the common challenges women face in maintaining a healthy work-life balance, and how do you personally deal with them?
Thank you, Marissa. But before I answer that, I just wanted to actually say, if you feel like Sarah Jessica Parker, I would love to feel like her. Okay, just by the way. But yeah, to answer your question is, like, I think a lot of women, we've got this maternal instinct that comes natural to us. So we feel like we already, like, whatever we do, we have to look after everything. We have to look after people. We want to nurture things. And so essentially we step into life having essentially 2 or 3 jobs that we need to deal with, your actual work that you have to do, being a wife or a partner, and then also being, for some of us, a mother. So stepping into different roles. And I think that's very important to just acknowledge as well, that you stepping automatically into different roles, and it does become very challenging when you have to step into different roles. So for me personally, I think, like, for instance, at home, having to buy groceries and having to, like, just make sure that there's food to eat every night, or every meal for that instance. Working from home, that has become every meal, not just for supper, like it used to be. But then, like, I think dividing and conquering, like having an honest conversation with your partner or your spouse and saying, listen, I cannot do this by myself, I do need your help. Maybe planning, like, this is what we need to eat, I'll buy all the groceries, make sure that it's there, but if you can just maybe help to also make supper tonight, or things like that. And then don't be ashamed of asking for help. And then another one is, like, be kind to yourself, so you don't have to feel like you are failing in being a spouse or partner because you didn't prepare lunch today. Your spouse and partner also has got two hands, so they can also look after themselves. They can also make you food. So I think it's be kind to yourself in that space as well, just to acknowledge that you don't have to do everything yourself.
Not true.
Definitely. So far we have know yourself and be kind to yourself. I love it. It's very, very nice. Kim, then I want to come back to you, specifically regarding leadership, because you're the Chief Investment Officer. What role do you think women in leadership specifically can do to influence the overall well-being of women in the workplace?
I think specifically it's really important that there are many women in the property industry and in many industries, but there are not a lot of women who tend to progress or are at the higher levels within organizations. And I've thought quite a bit about why this could be. And I think it's because women choose to potentially retreat around about the time when they do start having children. And as Brunilda mentioned, it's this almost like a mother's guilt that you would retreat and you feel that you need to be at home and looking after the children. So I think that's why there are fewer women near the top. But I must say that it is fantastic when I do encounter other women who are working full-time and are progressing in their career. It does give you a sense of it's generally quite isolated if you're at the top with only men. So it gives you that sense of comfort that there's other women that share the same feelings generally in life, and it's wonderful to be able to relate to other women at those levels, and it's very inspiring.
That is very true, and that mom guilt also hit quite on the head with me. I have 5-year-old twins, and sometimes it just gets so much because they want you and all of this, but you have to do this complete juggling act between work and meetings and food and them, and we do it because we love them.
If I can comment, right? I also realize that, as much as we sometimes deter from it, but the roles of women instinctively, in nature, with even cubs and lionesses, it's our nature to take care of things. So I think that's why now that we're trying to do a million things at the same time, we do have the guilt that we can't do the basic thing of just sitting with your child and taking care of their needs apart from everything else. And then I think you have to sort of convince yourself, and once they can talk and understand, to say, I'm also doing this for you. So as the reason I can't talk to you right now and I need to work is because I want us to go on that holiday, or you must get your Lego set that you want. So it's a tough balance. It's not easy. I can understand fully. If you're a mom, you always carry it, but it's just in our nature. And so we have to eventually be able to talk to our kids to understand the reason I'm doing this is for you, ultimately.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
and it's
for
it's
sure.
100% about finding that balance between being able to provide financially and set a good example for your children, but also being there and making time for them, that you can sit and do some homework with them, spend some special
Yes,
time with them. It's just about finding that balance.
true. It's
I think the main thing with that is it does not need to be quantity. You don't need quantity, but you do need quality.
quite true.
100%. Yes.
That is the main thing that I try and focus on, is if I'm with them, I'm with them. And yes, if it's 30 minutes, an hour, make it the best 30 minutes or an hour that it can be.
True. And I think you're right about that, because even I've got a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old. So the one rule that I have is an hour before bedtime, we just hang out. My son always says, can we go hang out now? We can just talk, or we play a card game or a board game. But just that if we get to find out more about school, what happened today. And so the other times during the day when I'm dropping them off at different activities, it's not so much the quality that's there, but the 1 hour I know I owe it to them. And then after that, they go to bed, and then I can continue with my life. So I think the quality, you're correct in that the quality is the most important as opposed to quantity.
Okay. I think on top of that, on how women can help each other in the workplace, especially if you're in a leadership role. And sorry, I have no specific one, so anyone can jump in. How can mentorship and support networks contribute to women's well-being in their professional journeys? And how important is that?
So I can say from my side, I think that mentorship and support networks are very important in that you don't feel alone. I think often, as Kim was saying earlier, that you get into spaces where the higher you go, there's less women. So in terms of mentorship, it's to sort of guide and give you the opportunity as a woman to see that there are opportunities outside of that. And also when you're looking at a community of people that you associate with, whether it's an institution that, Hearting Women of Insurance, for instance, that support network just gives you women that face the same challenges as you, have got the same successes as you. And so by being able to engage with them, you're able to sort of see that you're not alone. I think the biggest thing is seeing that you're not alone, there are a community of people, and that you are able to grow. And the more women you see doing something that you want to do, the more it seems a little bit easier and possible for you to do the same thing. So I think it's quite important.
Definitely.
100%. And it's so important to mentor the younger woman coming through the ranks as well. I work with many women, and it's so wonderful to know that you have that support both ways. It's nothing like relating to somebody on a different level. And when you do end up speaking about these things, a little bit like it's nothing like that, but I am relating it to it, that Me Too, that whole campaign, it's as soon as you start speaking about how you feel, a lot of, especially women, it is a specific trait that we have, which is we collaborate and we support and we like to share stories. And I find that sharing experiences with other women in the workplace, whatever they may be, that it certainly does help with just feeling more supported and mental health in general.
I think just to add to that as well, sorry Marissa, is it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, it needs to be someone that's like your line manager or in a, it can be a lateral, like it can be a horizontal, like it can be horizontal. It can be like someone on the same level with you. It can be someone even below you, but just to find that connection. And I mean, sometimes it's necessary for the leaders at the top to also have someone to kind of pick them up. We don't necessarily have someone pulling us up. So we do find our strength in people like pushing us upwards as well.
So off script, sorry guys. I was just thinking now, why do we, okay, maybe it's me, and maybe this is then only for my own personal wellness growth today. Why do we hide things and actually not say anything? If you are struggling, if you are going through something with your health, if you're going through a mental issue or whatever, I think, okay, me personally, I clam up. I don't say anything. Any advice from anyone then on the panel on that?
So I'm the exact opposite. I say everything.
From my view, Marissa, I think there's a lot of, I think women are afraid to say, this is how I'm feeling, because it would be seen as being weak. And in some instances, it is being seen as being weak. But I think we need to, as women out there, need to like also empower the people we work with so that they feel comfortable to actually open up and share what's going on. Like I said, there's no shame in asking for help. I think asking for help is actually brave. It's extremely brave, and it shows a different type of character if you are actually able to ask for help.
Ayanda, anything you want to add? Maybe
I do understand exactly what you're saying, and I think because we're all trying to show that we can, because if you think about it, it's only in the past 30 years that women are taken seriously in the corporate space, and 30 is pushing it, probably the past 20 years. So I think it's a challenge of I should know what I'm doing, and so if I do tell somebody else I'm struggling, they're going to see me as weak. But I think speaking to what Brunilda was saying is that we need to create safe spaces in the workplace. And also I think it's important for us to foster a team spirit, because sometimes if you've got a team of 5 or 10 people, if we're not gelled and connected, it's difficult for them to speak up. But if we've got that team camaraderie going, it's easier to have a little quick coffee with someone to say, listen, on that topic, I'm struggling a bit, or, even the team building exercises and just going out for coffee on a Friday. It just fosters that relationship, that it becomes a little bit more easier to speak about it, as opposed to if we're in an office and we are just focused on work. So I think team spirit and fostering an open, candid relationship.
And I would like to say that from personal experience, I find when you do open up and you are vulnerable and you say, this is something I'm afraid of, this is something I'm struggling with, you will really be surprised at the reception that you get. And like you say, I mean, maybe one is perceived as weak, but one is also perceived as real. And I think it's so important to share our experiences, and other people will say, oh, I feel the same way, but I was afraid to say that. And I find that is a strong connection with other people.
That's true. I think oh, sorry, Brilliant.
No, you go.
I'm just saying, I think vulnerability is actually quite important. So I do agree with that sometimes you find that there's a room of 5 people and they all have the same problem, but because no one wants to speak about it, they keep on struggling with it for the next 5 months until one person says, and then it's like, oh, actually, we all have the same problem. So be correct in that.
And I think also, I just want to add, I know we're focusing on women this morning, but that's also applicable to men. Like, men also need to be able to know that they can ask for help, and that they can, they also need to be able to create safe spaces for the people working with them as well, where they can connect as well.
And ask for help from a woman is okay sometimes, because they struggle with that.
For sure. So I know I'm picking on myself now quite a lot today, but when I was younger, not that I'm not young now, but younger than what I am now, I used to have this thing in my head that I have to work the hardest and show everyone, I work the hardest. I'm first in, I'm last out. Needless to say, guys, that is not the advice we want to give today, because that is horrible advice. You can do it if need be for a short period of time if you wanted to get something specifically, but that is not good advice. And trust me, I crashed and burned dramatically following a long stint of that. So, Brunilda, I want to throw to you. How can women prioritize self-care while still excelling at their careers?
Well, there's actually quite a few things that I think we should keep in mind. So, and that's also for everybody, not just women, but I think planning forms a very important part of what we do. So in planning, I mean planning your meals, planning, what you're going to do, what you're going to eat, so that you eat healthy. If you keep eating unhealthy things just because you haven't planned for meals, it does affect your ability to actually keep your energy levels going. Taking in lots of water. I know not everybody loves that, but it is actually very important for you to actually hydrate, and by hydrating, it specifically talking about water. Getting in some exercise, I think, if not on a daily basis, at least 3 times a week, even if it's like not very intense exercise, just walk around the block. Stepping away from your computer during the day, even if it's for 5 minutes, just to go and sit out in the sun, or just to get your mind off of things, not eating your lunch in front of your computer, but actually stepping away and going and taking lunch elsewhere. Also, I think switching off any technology-wise, work-wise things on your mobile in the evenings. Say after this time, I'm no longer available type of thing. I know that's not always possible, but trying to just eliminate factors that can keep you up. From personal experience, I used to have my emails on my phone, and then if I wake up at 3:00 in the morning, then I start reading emails. I stopped that completely. Now I can actually fall asleep again. So again, another thing, trying to get rest, and resting when you actually are tired. I think a lot of time we just try to push through, and we're like, I can't be tired now because there's lots to be done. But then you get to a point where your body will shut down. So if you're tired, rest. So and stop feeling guilty about the fact that you actually have to rest. You're a human being. You actually do need some rest. Sure, I can go on. Boundaries, setting the boundaries in place that you need to be able to look after yourself. So you can say no. It is allowed to say no to people. Again, coming back to what we spoke about now, asking for help. When you see you're not coping, asking for help. And then, I think that all comes together by tapping into your resources. What resources do I have available that can help me through this space in my life that I am in at this moment?
No, definitely. But I do want to extend on something that you've said now, Brunilda, and maybe Kim, you can help us with this. How can women set these clear boundaries in their work to prevent burnout? Or are there any tips for effectively saying no? Because it's not always easy, is it?
I struggle to say no. I definitely have that problem. I'm a perfectionist. So if someone asks me to do something, no matter what time of the day, I feel like I need to do it. And I do it. But it also isn't so overwhelming that I feel that it's impacting on my mental health and well-being. But what I typically like to do is I try and silo the two, so work and home. So work is very important for me, and I focus on it 100% when I'm at work. I try and be as present as possible. There are, of course, times where maybe I get a call from the school or something's happened with my son, and I have to go, of course. Then one goes and does what you need to do. And then when I'm at home, I really try and set that time aside to enjoy being with my family, spending time just doing something I enjoy. Even if that means away from the family, which a lot of women also don't like to talk about, but sometimes we need some time away from our children and maybe go and have a glass of wine with a friend or a coffee or a nice walk on the promenade. I think it's very important that you understand the elements of your life and how that promotes health and well-being. So I do try and silo these. Sometimes there are moments and times and weekends where I may be required to work just to get on top of things or meet a deadline. And I'm absolutely happy to do that. But I think it's just that it mustn't become a pattern where you blur everything together and you're not quite sure what day of the week it is. And I think it's nice, it's important to work, and it's fulfilling, and it sets you up financially. But then you also need to, like Ayanda said, go and enjoy that holiday, take some leave, spend some time with your family.
Definitely. And I like what you said about the silos. At work, your work, at home, your home. But that is getting so difficult nowadays with remote working. Like myself, Brunilda, we're at home. We work permanently from home. So Ayanda, with the rise in this remote work, what unique wellness challenges do women face in this context, and how can they overcome them?
I think the one challenge is what you've just spoken about, that it's difficult while you're trying to have a Teams meeting and there's a knock on the door and someone is asking you, where's my pen, or have you seen my jersey?
Can I have a sweetie?
Oh! So I think that was a big challenge. So the big challenge is that it's difficult to then have those clear boundaries to say, guys, I'm working. So I think the most important thing is to communicate, and to say, if you've got children or a partner, to actually communicate. And sometimes what you must have at the door is meeting in progress, please don't interrupt, so everybody knows. But to what Kim was saying, the silo, like to say, when I'm working, I'm actually working and I'm focusing on that. And when I get to my family, then it's my family. So I think that's the one challenge that it's given us. But in the opposite spectrum, what I realized that it's the challenge has been is that we are communal people as human beings in general, especially as women. So at the office, these are conversations by the coffee machine, or we go for lunch together. So we see different people all the time and we collaborate and speak. So when you're at home, you now are sort of like in solitary confinement. And as human being in general, the worst punishment in jail is solitary confinement. And now we are actually doing that ourselves. When the kids are at school, you're sitting there at home, it becomes challenging that there's no one to talk to. And I think then it starts messing up with your mental health and wellness, because now you start daydreaming or, thinking about things that you shouldn't be thinking about, because there's no one to off track you and crack a joke or say, let's quickly go make coffee or something. So I think the one challenge that I've realized with myself, but speaking to other people, is that need for human contact. Because now when after school the kids come back and then you're busy working, you're done with that, it's the kids, it's your husband, but the time to actually go out with your friends and socialize is minimum. And I think being at work was actually a way for us to have that social, other social network apart from our home and our kids and families. So I think those are the two challenges. It's on opposite sides. The one is that it's difficult to focus on work with your family, but we can build the clear boundaries for that. Then the other one is that we actually now don't have the community anymore. So now we need to find ways of building communities and maybe going to the gym for that hour, or finding a jogging or walking club around your community, just to have a conversation with an adult. It's so nice and refreshing sometimes. So yeah, those are the challenges that I've picked up, and maybe how you can try and work around them.
Yeah, for sure. So as I said in the beginning, I'm fairly, I want to say, almost new to the whole wellness thing. And I did get myself a life coach a while ago. And one of the first things that she had me implement is to have a clear break from getting up at my desk and not merely running down and going to make dinner and get on with life itself, is to have a little ritual, to do something, to just break between work and life. And I must say, it has made the world of a difference, because usually, you have your commute back home or in the car, and you can sing it out in the car, and it's that break. And I think even if you work from home, that is so important. Even if you listen to a song, dance, I don't know, something. But to have that break is really important, and has made quite a big difference in my life as well.
No, that's true. I mean,
Sorry, guys. No, I was just going to say, Marissa, you can imagine that I would say I'm not a fan of working from home. I think the only time that we worked from home as a company was during lockdown level 5. And I found, even as hard a worker as I think I am, I kept opening the dishwasher to unpack it. I just couldn't silo this, trying to tidy up the house and get my work done. I love coming to the office and interacting with my colleagues. I think that a lot of companies are going to be calling their employees back to work, not only because they're finding that productivity levels aren't what they thought they would be. They're certainly saving on a little bit of rent, but at the expense of productivity, but also mental well-being of their staff. And exactly what you've mentioned, it's important to interact with other people, to for the younger, the interns, to learn from the older people within the organization, the transfer of skills. There are just so many reasons why it's important to be back at work. But I also appreciate the flexibility that it allows, especially moms. But I think nowadays also men, and I think they're also craving a bit of balance, work and home life. So I think that we're going to see a lot of men also enjoying the flexibility of working from home. But I certainly believe that the majority of the time should be in the office.
Let's throw to our admitted attorney and hear the flip side.
So from my side, Kim, I think I love working from home. People tire me out, actually. So if we do go into the office for a day or two, I'm exhausted for the rest of the week. And well, both myself and my husband, both work from home, but we also, both of us, we don't need other people around us. So you can just lock us in the house and leave us there for months and nobody would even notice if we're not there. So so even our neighbors sometimes say, we never hear you, we never see you, what's going on? But I think for me, I enjoy being able to actually put myself on D&D and say, nobody's going to disturb me now, I'm just going to focus on my work. So I feel from our side is more productive, and thinking about academic work as such is also, it gives us that freedom to actually get focused time in. But what we have done, just to make it easier for those that do crave that experience or that connection, human connection all the time, we've implemented short coffee dates twice a week where we do icebreakers and we just chat and laugh, and we're not allowed to speak about work at all. So we still then get that interaction, and I try to attend those, and I do attend those. But like I said, being in person, that would actually tire me out completely.
Definitely. Okay, I think to wrap up the day, I'm going to ask all of you guys the same questions. And I'll start with Kim. What are your go-to strategies, guys, for achieving long-term success without sacrificing your personal well-being?
I think it's important, and for me, just I know my own stress levels. So I think going forward with career and work, it's important to understand what those indicators are. And as soon as you realize you may be overwhelmed or not in a good place, you need to, whether that's at work or at home, you need to implement the change, which I mentioned earlier. You shouldn't be afraid to change. If something is not feeling right, whether work or personal, you need to move to a space where you feel at harmony. Life is short. We don't have a long time. We don't know when we may not be around anymore. So I think it's so important to just enjoy every day. And you will know when you're in the right place, and you just keep going until you find what works for you.
Definitely. Ayanda, your top tips, and also if you can please just tell the people, someone asked in the questions, what is Ayanda's YouTube channel called?
All right, my YouTube channel is called The Insurance Guru. And in terms of your question with achieving long-term success, for me, the first thing is sleep, rest. When you can't anymore, just rest. And I think a lot of the times when we've got so many dreams, and I'm one of those people that do 50,000 things in a day, but my rest is the most important thing. And I think for me, it's just being able to spend time with your loved ones. I put my kids probably above everybody else. And just the joy that I get from them then keeps me going in order to go after the things that I want to achieve. So I think just really take care of yourself. There's just rest, take care of yourself, don't judge yourself, don't be harsh. You're not a bad person, you're not a bad mom. Just because you forgot that today is gymnastics, it doesn't make you a bad person. So just, it's like forgiveness. Now I'm telling on myself. But so forgiveness and rest and focusing on the good and the glass half full, and then the rest of the things you can build up from there.
Thank you very much. Brunilda, closing words?
So from our side, I think if you've made your plans, if you've set your boundaries and you are eating healthy, doing all those beautiful stuff, just to keep yourself accountable. The only person that can derail those things are you. So keep yourself accountable for the things you've set in place to keep your health and wellness intact.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. So to wrap up, I thought I would leave you with some of the words of the Pink song, All I Know So Far. I wish someone would have told me that this life is ours to choose. No one is handing you the keys or the book with all the rules. So you might give yourself away and pay full price for each mistake. I wish someone would have told me that the darkness comes and goes, and even I can't teach you how to fly, but I can show you how to live like your life is on the line. And guys, that is all we know so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks
you.
for having us.